Cardinals got good mojo. And speaking of good mojo, we're back trending up, trending down here on a football Monday. Let's start with trending up, Bo Brock. Here's the 3 players or entities that I think are trending up for this team right now after a competitive yet lopsided loss yesterday. This is Johnny's trending up. I mean, how do we go 36 minutes into this show and I have not been able to gush over one Michael Wilson? We talked about it ad nauseum on the pregame and the postgame show yesterday. He's one of the top 10 players on the roster right now, unquestionably. He's got the highest potential of any singular entity offensively, not named Kyler Murray on this team right now, outside of Paris Johnson Jr., but as a skill player, a weapon. I have not seen this physicality from a receiver since Anquan Boldin, Larry Fitzgerald. Now, I don't know if he's going to eclipse somebody like John Brown or Christian Kirk. I would bet he does, though. He's on pace right now for just over 1,000 yards as a rookie with Josh Dobbs as his quarterback. I think, yes, we would have all signed up for that. I apologize to Michael Wilson and his family. I did not like the draft pick on day 2 of the NFL draft. I thought it was a reach. I've been proven wrong. He is sensational. He cooked Niner DBs up and down the field. You watch the tape I have on all 22. Even when he wasn't getting the ball thrown to him, he was open. One of the best picks thus far of the Austin Ford era. Drew Petzing. I mean, what more can you say? Bo, you mentioned at the top of the show, they're top 10 in total offense right now. That's unquestionable. That's unheard of. This team right now, again, who's elevating Josh Dobbs, Michael Wilson, Drew Petzing. Guys are making plays for him, but Drew Petzing's the mastermind right now of a unit that top 10 in rushing. They've given up 6 sacks on the season, even with Elijah Wilkinson's horrendous play. I mean, Drew Petzing, to me, we've always been envious of the Kyle Shanahan offense. Everybody gets their Kyle Shanahan disciple. They go on to have success. The Cardinals have now tapped into the Shanahan offense, made it their own, and had a very competent, well-played showing against San Francisco. The defense, not so much, but man, oh man, Drew Petzing offensively, he's pushing all the right buttons. And speaking of the right buttons, trending up is the win projection for this team. Like, we're going to talk about the draft status later in the show, but I don't know how anybody can watch this team right now and not think, yeah, they can get to 6 or 7 wins. Like, look at the schedule for the rest of the year. Chicago, the Pittsburgh Steelers look horrendous. Like, I don't know if I'm buying Houston yet. They're going to win a couple division games. This team right now just went through, I think, one of the hardest gauntlets across the NFL landscape. Dallas and the Niners are on the short list of the 4 or 5 best teams in the NFL. Well, they beat Dallas and they hung with San Francisco 3 quarters. Like, they could run out of gas, and a lot of it depends on what's going on with Kyler and Dobbs. But this team is so well coached and so prepared on Sunday. I'm mentally preparing myself. Their pick is going to be outside the top 10. They're going to win 6 or 7 games this year.
That's a pretty bold prediction, even with what we've seen through 4 weeks. But, I find a tough time disagreeing with it. And I also want to officially make my request that we do trending down first and end on a high note with our trending up players.
Whatever.
What say you? Yay or nay?
That's what you get. Sure. Okay. There was so much negativity
I'll
in
go
that
after
first
myself.
segment.
Okay.
You and I were there was some animosity. I wanted to try to start with some positive talk.
Okay.
But Bo wants to keep it negative. That's fine.
No, I wanted to ramp this thing up to the end of the show.
That's fine. Is on trending up. Do you have Bo Nix by chance?
No, I don't. Even though I like the Ducks this year. They play to win games, not for clicks. Let's check out who I have trending up for the Arizona Cardinals. I agree with yours. I think you got a great list, but I'm going a little chalk here as well. I'm going to go with Joshua Dobbs. He's playing so well. As I mentioned, he should have had 3 touchdown passes in this game. You see so many really impressive things from Joshua Dobbs. No picks through 4 games, 123 pass attempts, 7th in the completion percentage in the league at nearly 71%, top 10 in quarterback rating. You've got, as far as 4th in the NFL he's 10 for 15 on 3rd and medium throws. So he's making big time plays. He's top passer inside the 10, 4 for 4 with 3 touchdowns, top quarterback rating inside the 10 at 125, and second best passer in the NFL inside the 20s, 12 for 17. So when it matters on 3rd down in the red zone, Joshua Dobbs has been even better than you've seen just from the on the surface statistics. Love what I'm seeing from number 9. And I love what I'm seeing from Hollywood Brown. I knew you were going to go with Michael Wilson because of your love affair with the 3rd round pick at a Stanford. But I like what I've really seen from Hollywood Brown. Also projected to go over 1,000 yards receiving. He's making big plays on 3rd downs too, Johnny. 7 catches on 3rd downs for first downs from Hollywood Brown. He has the 2 touchdowns. He has a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, and then he has nearly 100-yard performance yesterday. Hollywood Brown is absolutely trending up. He's finding his way in this offense. He played hurt. He's got the thumb injury. He dealt with I think it was the hammy earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
So Hollywood Brown getting healthier, but he's also playing well. And then the offensive line, I mean, to keep that ferocious front 7 from the San Francisco 49ers off Joshua Dobbs, all but one play. I really liked what I saw from the O-line. 6 sacks and the over 120 dropbacks for this team with Joshua Dobbs. Love it. I love what I've seen from this offensive line. Talked to Yelda Froholt today. He took us through the whole ordeal where he was taken out of the game and how he tried to sneak his way back onto the field, but they wouldn't let him do so. I mean, you talk about the pass rush group, but this is like a true group of dogs. I like the continuity. I like the cohesiveness. I really like this offensive line and how they're playing.
I mean, we haven't seen that unit get whooped one time this year. And we tongue in cheek kind of said, yeah, it's probably the best position unit on the team, and they're living up to it. And people come at us because, we cherry pick PFF stats, and, you always take it with a grain of salt. I don't think PFF is doing the Cardinals any favor with their offensive line ranking. I've seen bad offensive lines for this franchise for 20 plus years. This is not one of them. This is an above average unit. You're protecting Josh Dobbs, a quarterback that started minus 3 games at most in his NFL career. And you've got, a limited offensive, personnel. Let's call it what it is. You got people emerging, but to say like most teams utilizing an offensive line like this probably are getting lit up on Sundays, where I think the Cardinals are being well coached up front. I think DJ Humphries, you're getting just enough potentially out of his final year with the Cardinals. Yelda Froholt was a backup, an afterthought. You got to get him a new deal. Will Hernandez has been the best offensive lineman they had. And then obviously Paris Johnson Jr. has been a revelation. So I'm with you. I like all your picks. Hollywood's going to be an interesting case study, Bill Brock, because if they play themselves out of Marvin Harrison, they could always, of course, draft another receiver. I expect they will at some point. But it's like, what will it take for Hollywood Brown to be back as an Arizona Cardinal next year? He wasn't traded for by this regime. He wasn't drafted by this regime. They have a preference for bigger receivers, right? He's like kind of the exception to the rule. Mm-hmm. Do you think he's working his way back to potentially being re-signed by this team, or is it too early to tell?
I mean, and you can only take it with a grain of salt, from Jonathan Gannon, but he was asked about Hollywood Brown, and he's very complimentary. And, I think that he likes him a lot. He obviously likes his explosiveness. Yeah. And in this day and age, you've got to have, shots, explosives. And that's what Hollywood Brown brings to the table. Now, can they find a number that makes sense for Hollywood Brown to continue his career as an Arizona Cardinal? That's going to be a big question, right? Hollywood Brown has been like, you haven't heard a peep from Hollywood Brown's camp. You haven't heard a peep from Hollywood Brown. Like, he's only said the company line that he's only focused on his play right now. He hasn't mentioned his contract ever. And it hasn't even, it's never shown up as far as him and really deterring him or swaying how he plays or when he plays or anything. So, he seems to kind of walk the walk as far as what he says in his press conferences and how he goes about his business. Maybe that falls in line with what this organization, he's definitely not a me guy, and that falls in line with the organization.
Players like him. And I think like you look around this team and it's like, there are guys on this team that are not here anymore. I guess just put my foot in my mouth, but like Isaiah Simmons, DeAndre Hopkins, like they couldn't get some guys out of here fast enough. Right. And then there are some guys they're trying to decide, like, what's Zaven Collins' future, right? What's Zach Ertz's future? What's James Conner's future? Hollywood is like the one entity. He's 26 years old. He has talent. He's too good not to play. And he's going to have a nice year if he stays healthy. Well, do they open the checkbook in the offseason and say, Hollywood, here's a 3-year deal with some guaranteed money. We'd like for you to come back. Or does Hollywood say, this is the first time I've ever gotten to taste free agency. I'm going to go out and get the most I can. It's going to be really interesting because I do think that, for me, it's like Hollywood Brown is, I think, in a lot of situations, a really high-end number 2 receiver. I think we've come to the conclusion he's probably not a number 1, but he can be a +2. But how much do you pay for that, right? How much do you pay for that for a team that has Kyler Murray making $45 million? Michael Wilson's not making any money. It's a decision that I'm glad I don't have to make. But of course, you would want Hollywood Brown on your team instead of not having him on your team. It's the same conversation we had about Byron Murphy and Zach Allen. The difference is, though, is now Hollywood is helping win games, be productive under this regime. And I don't think you can discredit that. He's winning himself a lot of fans in that locker room, I'm sure.
I mean, unless there's like a Christian Kirk situation, and there always is, right, in the league where teams have almost a cap number that they can't even reach, even like a floor to spend in an off season, with sometimes the fool's gold in free agency. Like, unless somebody comes like way over the top and gives, Hollywood Brown, and I don't think so. I think that those days were short lived.
And he was young. He was younger too. I think he was like 24 when he got that deal. Hollywood's going to be 27.
Yeah. So there are different variables that go into it. So can they find a middle ground? And the Cardinals, I mean, very easily can reach $80 million in cap space if they want to, with some easy moves. Does Hollywood Brown, can they afford him? Maybe they don't sign him to a long-term deal, but maybe they sign him to a 2 to 3 year deal that is a bit front loaded with all the cap space that they're going to have in 2024. But I think the door it's open a bit. I wouldn't say it's wide open for him to return, but a lot of things have to go right. Do you want me to take the trending down first, since you started with trending up?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Belbrock. Who you down on this week?
Johnny Venerable. I'm going to say your full name just as much as you say my full name. Trending down for a second consecutive week. And look at this picture we have. The Arizona Cardinals tight ends. It hasn't been pretty. Now, I know Zach Ertz had a bunch of targets yesterday, but if you look at the tight end production the last 2 weeks, they have 15 targets for 10 catches and 66 total yards from the tight ends. You have one target each week for Trey McBride. You had one target from Jeff Swaim yesterday that was nearly an interception, and most of the balls are being fed to Zach Ertz, and you're just not seeing the production that you want. So I'm trending down right now at the tight ends. Rondell Moore, after a really rock solid performance, including a 45+ yard rushing and touchdown, just in 2 targets, no catches, no yards for Rondell Moore yesterday. You can't disappear in big games like that. And then Lecky Fotu, if I had to identify, from the defensive line that was getting blown off the line of scrimmage yesterday against the stout offensive line and rushing attack from the San Francisco 49ers, you look at the numbers, and I know we only take with a little pinch of salt for the PFF grades. I would say Lecky Fotu had a really rough Sunday, and he had to be somebody that needed to step up as far as the defensive line, just because of his experience and what the team kind of is entrusted in him as a starter, as a season open starter.
Like the defensive line, I think they have been hampered by injuries, and that's played a part in it. But I think our worst fears, unfortunately, are coming to reality, at least this past week. Now, not everybody has San Francisco's run game. Most teams don't. But like this offseason, we're like, this unit's thin, and they can't afford to lose these guys, and maybe somebody emerges. Right now, it's the biggest position hole on the team. Like, you need to add so many bodies, capable bodies, to this unit next offseason. Like, you got to double down in free agency and the draft. They're just not good enough. Yeah. It's not an NFL caliber defensive line. It's, for lack of a better term, a practice squad level defensive line. Like, it's a rotation. And I get it. You can win games like that because of how well they're coached and some of the complementary players defensively with Kazir White. Maybe some of the pass rushers go off, but if you're ever trying to compete for a playoff spot, God forbid a division, you need to find capable DTs. And this draft class is okay at that position. There is not one alpha ass kicker in this draft that's going to be available to you that you can say is a Jalen Carter-esque type of DT.
Yeah, nobody's emerged yet, right?
Not yet.
Here's what I'll say, though. Like, I think Monty Ossenfort has shown an ability, and along with Jonathan Gannon, who's seen the type of players you need at that position. Like, they can scout the position.
They're capable, for sure.
Pretty confident of what they were able to do, and look at the free agent class from 2023, which was not great. And then they were like, you know what, we're not going to go spend big free agent dollars on these guys, but we can find guys that can fit our system and compete against, not against the Trent Williams of the world, or not against, elite offensive line play, which there isn't a whole lot of in the NFL. And you're certainly not going to see it this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. But can we have guys that can compete in a rotation? But no, I think I'm confident that they can find it in this upcoming draft. And I think they can find it in free agency and upgrade immediately. Like, I think they can immediately bolster this defensive line.
I mean, that's not saying much, but yeah, they damn well better. If they want to compete for a playoff spot, they have to. Thunder saying Gannon said Stills had his best game. If you're going by PFF, he was the number 1 rated defensive lineman, I think. So I think it was in the 60s. Throw him out there. Again, let's see what he does against the Bengals offensive line that's putrid. That's your trending now. Here is mine with a couple twists to it. Again, I'm going to start with Marco Wilson. I banged the table for Marco to have a contract year, be, somebody that you give an extension to. Like, I wonder, is he even going to be on this team next year? He does not look like a good fit right now for Jonathan Gannon's defense. Where are the ball skills that we've seen in prior years? He's getting cooked. And again, I'm sure a lot of that you would say is the lack of pass rush, the lack of, a solid run defense. And Marco is probably a more complimentary corner than a CB1 or 2. But Keitrell Clark's outplaying Marco Wilson as a 6th rounder out of Louisville. Keitrell Clark was better yesterday against San Francisco. He's having nightmares about Brandon Ayuk and what he did to him yesterday. Every single time the Niners needed a big 3rd down conversion, they targeted number 20. And so I want good things for Marco. I think he's a good guy. The locker room, has embraced him. He fell in the draft. I thought it was a steal. And, I think he'll still end up playing out the rest of his rookie contract. But Gannon's baby is defensive back play. Well, Jalen Thompson's great. Budda Baker's great. Kayvon Wallace has been great. Keitrell Clark's been great. What's the outlier is the other cornerback spot. And again, are you keeping that seat warm for Garrett Williams to come in and play some good football at the end of the year? That remains to be seen. And we just touched on it. Defensive depth, the defensive tackle group. I mean, I'm not going to bang on this dead horse all show, but I mean, it's John Ledbetter, hurry back, try to make some moves on the, waiver wire. But man, this team right now, I want so much better for them at this position because Steve Keim, he batted about 50 at the defensive line. Darius Philon, bust. Robert Kimdichie, bust. Jordan Phillips, bust, right? Letting Calais Campbell walk before he's almost defensive player of the year in Jacksonville. It has been the most mismanaged position group, of the past half decade for this team. And Jonathan Gannon and Monty Osford cleaning up the mess right now. So go spend money, open the checkbook, get some people in there. Number 1, that can stay healthy, and number 2, that can obviously be productive. And then the last thing trending down, Brock, for this team is their draft position. Houston right now is winning. God forbid. I mean, they look like a team that's going to be very viable all year. Now, CJ Stroud could hit a rookie wall, and D'Amico Ryans is a rookie head coach. But like AFC, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, get your shit together. You're supposed to be playoff contenders. You're losing to Houston. You're costing a precious draft capital. Now I'm looking at their schedule. We pulled it up yesterday. Damon Dog's probably got it. Houston's draft position, or excuse me, their schedule. It's a joke. Yeah. People are saying they're going to win the AFC South. Look at this schedule for the Houston Texans. Hold on. A joke. It's laughable. And then, and then the Cardinals, I think, are going to win more games than people think. So I'm happy we're not Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. this week, but what is going on with the Houston Texans? That makes me physically ill. We're about to do our pregame show, and I'm watching them blow out teams. They're not supposed to be this far ahead. Will Anderson looks fucking good. Just it bothers me. I'm a little frustrated right now with what's going on with Houston. Look at that schedule, bro.
Oh my God. I mean, like we said, they could very realistically win 3 of 4 before their bye week.
Is that an XFL schedule?
I mean, if you could cook up, one of the weakest schedules possible for the 2023 season, this might be it. I mean, it's so bad. The fact that
looks like my senior year of high school, taking about 12 hours, home ec, art class, screwing around in the afternoon, right? Open lunch. That's the Houston Texans schedule this year. What? They're supposed to play good teams in the AFC. What is this trash? The Broncos, Jets now with no Aaron Rodgers.
CJ Stroud already is a better quarterback than the next 2 opponents, right? Is
not even close. Yeah.
Derek Carr doesn't come back. And then he's probably going to be better than Bryce Young right now. He plays coming out of the bye.
Not even close. They could be on a 7-game win streak when they play the Cardinals in Houston. Look at these teams.
Tennessee, I know Tennessee blew out the Bengals over the weekend, but they're bad, and they get Tennessee 2 out of 3. Tough times.
That is sickening. That is legitimately makes me sick to my stomach.
Especially after 2 L's to start the season. I mean, look at Monty Osford. Look how happy he was in the first 2 games of the season. CJ Stroud still hasn't thrown a pick. Is that right? And he's thrown for 1 billion yards.
He's flipping elite. He looks unbelievable. Bryce Young looks small and looks like a third stringer liability out there with Frank Wright, who, by the way, everybody loves.
Don't you
that
think
hire.
Frank Wright and Josh McCown, remember the pro day with CJ Stroud, and they're like, "Hey, we'll see you in Charlotte." I bet they longed for those
We'll
days.
see you on the unemployment line, Frank Wright. You'll be fired in 2 years. Frank Wright, everybody said Frank Wright rejected the Cardinals. He's great. Frank Wright's not a good head coach. Carolina looks like they could go about 1-16, and they're going to gift their first round pick to the Bears. But man, there's Robert in chat saying 10 wins. I wouldn't doubt it at this rate.
No.
I mean, do your mock draft.
I don't disagree with that with Dylan Richards either. As long as we cap, trending down. BJ Ojulari played 5 snaps yesterday.
I have a theory on that. My theory is Niners running the ball. BJ Ojulari has been, I don't want to say his pass rush specialist, but he's been brought in on third down. If you've noticed, like he comes in to try to give them some juice on third down. How many third downs did the Niners face yesterday? Like 4. Like it was first and second down, and they were cranking out first, left, and right. I don't think there was a position for BJ Ojulari to help this team yesterday. That's my theory.
I think Howard Balzer, it might be in his article right now, go PHNX.com, but he told me an unbelievable number. I think of their 60 offensive plays, I think it was a first down on 29 of those.
Yeah. Like BJ Ojulari, undersized right now, no training camp, can't help you with stopping that run game. Now, this week against the Bengals and the makeshift offensive line that looks like cardboard, like maybe he has his first sack, but
paper mache.
Yeah, paper mache, Joe Burrow and company. Like,
how's Orlando Brown Jr. working out for you?
Oh my God, not well, not well.